Time with the Politics Fix with USA Today's Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page and Politico's Executive Editor Jim VandeHei. Let me ask you about the president's numbers. Politico's new poll shows trust in the president to solve these big problems we're facing has dropped since March, a couple months ago, just over half. Trust him to find the right answers now. That's compared to two-thirds back in March. No surprise there. Let me go to you, Jim VandeHei, your news nose. Is the health care bill the last couple hours headed towards greatness and possible conclusion and a solution, or is it headed towards the dumpster of history?
I think we're not going to know until September. These men, they're not going to be able to get this stuff through and get real clarity on these bills, I don't think, going into the August break. And what happens in August is what matters. There are going to be millions of dollars spent, and most of it's going to be aimed at moderate to conservative Democrats who are very uneasy with more government spending and too big of a health care plan. If you look at almost all the polling, including the one at Susan's paper that's out today, he is losing a lot of support among moderate to conservative Democrats. And those are the people that he's got to be concerned about, because he needs that group of members to get a good bill, I think, through the House and get something through the Senate that everyone can vote for, because he's not going to get any Republican support, or if he does, it's going to be very minimal.
Susan, how's it look for that coalition of the willing, those 4 Republicans and 3 Democrat moderates putting it together in the Senate to get to the House Senate conference?
Well, we've been waiting, holding our breath for about a month now for them to come out with a deal that's acceptable to them. I mean, I think it's still possible if there's going to be a roughly bipartisan bill, I mean, a bill that gets any Republican support or not, it'll come from those Finance Committee members. But as each day goes by, it's clear how hard that is going to be and how more likely it is that we'll end up with a package where the real effort is to hold both moderate Democrats, fiscally conservative ones, and some of the liberal Democrats who'd like a much more far-reaching bill than they're likely to get.
Let's take a look at these approval numbers for the president 6 months in and how they compared to other presidents since World War II. You can see that Truman was at the top. He was mighty at 82% when he came in. Of course, he came in on the, right after Roosevelt was killed, basically, or died, rather. But then you see the numbers dropping down precipitously down into the last really good one was Nixon at 65%. Are we just in an era right now where it's tough, if you want to do something as president, like Obama's trying to do, Jim, that it's hard to keep up that 60%?
It might be. Listen, he's not lacking for power right now or popularity. He has it still in the polls, and he still has tremendous power in Washington. The problem for him is money. With deficits recently going over $1 trillion, you've seen a big shift in polls. And I'm not talking 1 or 2 polls, virtually every single poll where people are growing uneasy about the size of deficits. They don't want more spending. They don't understand why people have to move so quickly on such a big health care plan. And he's trying to do all of this while people are trying to digest whether or not the stimulus bill, which the public was told has to happen, has to be big, and has to move quickly, why that hasn't worked, why that hasn't cured the unemployment problem.
Susan and Jim will be right back with more of The Fix to talk about Sarah Palin. She's about to be let free on the lower 48. You're watching Hardball, only on MSNBC. We're back with USA Today's Susan Page and the Politico's Jim VandeHei. Susan, you first. Sarah Palin going to be out of office in a few days, heading down to the lower 48. Your hunch as to how well she'll do?
You know, we're going to hear from her at the Reagan Library in first week of August 8th, I guess. She says she's going to tweet a lot. But I think the question is she going to set up a kind of structure with advisors and staff and people she listens to beyond her husband, Todd, so that she seems to have kind of a coherent strategy going forward? I don't think that's clear. That's one of the raps on her right now.
Jim VandeHei, will she become a force in the Republican Party between now and the next election?
Who the heck knows? She's maybe the most unpredictable person in politics right now. She undoubtedly could be a force if she chooses to. I think what Susan's talking about, whether or not she actually puts together an infrastructure to allow her to do that, is a big open question. She's extraordinarily popular with Republicans. She can raise a lot of money, so she has a lot of the attributes that can make her a big player in Republican politics. But she has to make that decision on herself. Like, what does she want to do? What does she want to do with this political career? And it's not clear that she knows what she wants to do right now.
Susan, it seems to me that she has the power, maybe not to get elected president, but to set the direction. I mean, we just had a discussion on this show tonight about the wackos out there that are still questioning the citizenship of Barack Obama. There is a big piece of that 25% of the country that are calling themselves Republicans now, who are only narrowly sane right now in terms of the normal issues we discuss, who honestly think that Barack Obama somehow snuck into the presidency, that he's a foreigner.
You know, I think Sarah Palin may see her base as somewhat different than kind of the nutty fringe. You know, the fact is, one of the things we like about Sarah Palin that makes her appealing is that she doesn't stick to a Republican line. She's going to be, I assume she's going to continue to be unpredictable in that way.
Yeah.
She'll be able to get a lot of attention, and the Republicans in Washington will not be able to control what she says, and that is why she'll be worth listening to.
And let's be clear, her support doesn't only come from the fringe of the Republican Party.
Okay.
Most polls show most of the Republican Party likes her. Right.